Another samurai build has entered my build lineup, and this build will allow you to deal massive multi-hitting damage that shreds bosses in seconds, bleed procs, fast attack animation, and versatile gameplay. I am the samurai and I'll be guiding you on how to maximize the paired weapon Falx, state the possible challenges that this weapon has, and help you overcome them. So ultimately, this guide will help you decide if you want to go for this build. The Demondance Samurai enters the lands between to take the Elden throne. An Eastern warrior who mastered the twin reverse katana fighting style and also learned to wield incantations. This fearsome samurai overwhelms his enemies with quick movement speed and deals devastating and violent sword swings. Targets will be dying quickly because of this build's massive damage per second and usually makes boss fights as easy as hell. This Demondance Samurai focuses on dexterity, strength, and fate for its main stats. Moving on to the build stats, and I allocated 50 points of vigor as it is likely that the user will be hit because of the Falx long skill animation. While you are always welcome to adjust it to 60 points, if you think you really need more survivability while adjusting to the build's gameplay. Next is mine, and 25 points were allocated to it. We cannot simply spam Falx's unique skill and enemies usually die super fast, so 25 points is more than enough. 25 points were allocated to endurance as we can spam the unique skill, and I find 25 endurance just right for this playstyle. Dexterity, strength, and fate are going to be our main offensive stats in this build, allocating 75 to dexterity, 46 to strength, and 38 to fate. Lastly, no points were added to intelligence and arcane. Now if you are playing at level 150, I got you covered as I am showing them on the screen right now. Time for the build's equipment, and start with the build's main weapon, which is the mentioned Falx, a curved sword type of weapon and also a paired one. These swords requires 12 strength and 15 dexterity for the user to wield the weapon properly, while having D scaling for strength and B for dexterity. Now for the Falx unique skill, the Revenger Blade can deal tons and tons of damage to targets. A multi-hitting slash combo that not only has an insane damage multiplier, but can also trigger bleed procs in the process. If you play dual blades for a Monster Hunter series, you will find the Revenger Blade's animation familiar. Pressing L2 continually will let the user rush into the target by dashing at high speed and finish it with the 2 hard-hitting swipes. Pressing L2 alone and taking advantage of the dash attack can be a powerful strategy when dealing with fast-moving targets, as it can be your gap closing move while also dealing high damage in the process. If the user stops holding L2, the dash will stop and transit to the swiping attack. You can just do this as mentioned and it will be effective even without doing the multi-hitting combo finisher. For the user to perform the finisher, after the swiping attack, pressing R2 let the user perform the demonization dance or the violent multi-hitting sword slashes. The R2 finisher has an insane damage multiplier and can easily proc bleeds while in the middle of the animation. Enemies will die quickly, bosses will drop like flies if you learn how to use this finisher correctly. Moving on to the build's secondary weapon, and I am using the Spiral Tree Seal to be able to cast our key buffs and our Spiral Incantation later on. Following up with the suggested spells, and the first one on the list is of course Flame Grant Me Strength Incantation for the additional 20% physical damage attack boost and stamina recovery buff it provides. The second buff on the list is of course our Golden Vow. This buff increases overall damage by 15% and adds 10% damage negation, which is very helpful for this build. Blessing of the Erdtree will take the next slot as it helps the user regenerate 12 HP per second for 90 seconds. We will be equipping the Blood-Sucking Crack tier later on, so this incantation will slow down the HP loss drastically. Giant Golden Arc is the last incantation on this list for us to have a viable AoE and range attack. This incantation will help you deal with multiple enemies with ease and provide you more versatility in combat. If you find this guide useful, subscribing to the channel and liking the video will surely help me a lot. And as always, thank you for your support. Moving on to my suggested talismans, and the first one on the list is of course our Shard of Alexander. This provides a 15% skill damage increase. The next talisman for this build is of course our Lord of Blood's Exaltation, since you will be dealing with frequent bleed procs in this build. If the enemy is immune to bleed, I suggest replacing Lord of Blood Exaltation with Claw Talisman, as you do have an option to spam the jump attacks of the curved swords later on, and I will discuss it in the pros and cons section of this guide. Of course, we are dealing with quick multi-hitting attacks as the main damage dealing source in this build, slotting in Millicent Prosthesis and Rotting Wing Sword Insignia is the best in slot for this build. All of your attacks are fast and multi-hitting ones, so you can retain the attack boost from these talismans easily. Moving on to my Flash of Wonders physique combination, slotting in Thorny Crack tier is a no-brainer for this build. I have also mentioned that we will be using Blood-Sucking Crack tier in this build. However, if you find it too much because of the HP loss per second, Green Burst Crystal tier is a viable option for faster stamina recovery. Moving on to Great Runes, and I suggest slotting in Godric's Great Rune for the additional 5 stats across the board. And while for the Demondance Samurai's armor set, I'm going for this edgy samurai theme, so I equipped the Land of Reeds helm for the headpiece and the Confessor armor for the body piece and the Land of Reeds for the gauntlets and greaves. Now for the build's pros and cons, I'm starting with pros first. The first one that I can think of is of course the insane damage output of this build. Not counting the bleed procs, the Revenger's Blade's damage multipliers are insane. You can easily notice this even when dealing with enemies resistant to bleed. This build's phenomenal damage gets even better because of the build's ability to inflict bleed procs. Your fast hitting normal attacks can easily ramp up and inflict hemorrhage on targets. As mentioned, fights are ending so fast and almost making the game pretty easy. Next is we all know how monstrous dual curved sword type setups are in terms of dealing with easy to pull off quick multi-hitting attacks. Dealing with damage while maintaining high mobility in combat is always a plus in this game. And curved swords in general provide you this ability. The Revenger Blade can stun lock enemies while in the middle of its animation, making this skill even more broken. So most of the time, humanoid type targets can't do anything against this setup. The last advantage that I can think of for this build is focus points efficiency. You can spam Revenger's Blade especially because of its long animation, but even if you manage to use it in a row, and it only costs 15 focus points in general. Moving on to cons, and of course the first glaring issue that I can think of is the Revenger's Blade skill requires a wide or long opening for the user to perform its full combo. You can easily notice this when dealing with fast moving bosses, as you can't use it most of the time. However, this con can easily be disregarded as you can always damage targets effectively with your insane jump attacks, or as mentioned, just rely on your dash attack. The second con that I can think of is the build's lack of variety. I decided to focus on maximizing Falx to reach its optimal damage, so we do have little stats to play with. Overall, the Demondance Samurai is a very strong build that can take out enemies in a flash. Revenger Blades is a difficult skill to master, but when the user knows when or where to use it and manages to land it, it is a satisfying and fun way to punish enemies. If you are the type of player who loves to breeze through bosses with violent sword slashes and bleed procs while maintaining great mobility in combat, this build is for you. While if you are the type who hates overpowered builds, you might want to skip this one as this build can trivialize most of the bosses in the game. And with that being said, if you are looking for a different build to play like the Iron Berserker who smashes enemies with its mighty greatsword or gracefully slash enemies with Moonveil, these build videos are for you. And I will catch you on the next one.